from this very moment, and those who will come in later will just be able to catch up using the registration. So welcome everyone, and a very warm welcome to Solange Mifsud from the JRC. I don't think the JRC needs an introduction. We had the pleasure, we knew you from before, and we also had the pleasure to have Ignacio Gonzalez with us during our 3 days webinar that was closing the first 5 years of activity. So today we will be talking about the state of the art in the development of the guidelines to S4, which the JRC is working at. Solange, you did not have the opportunity to meet everyone from Marie, but we already talked about the project. However, I think it would be beneficial to the discussion if we go for a round-up table to introduce who's attending today and their organization. So we will do exactly like we did the last time. I will look at my screen and ask one person per organization to introduce herself or himself and the team, if that's okay. And then you, Solange, maybe can tell us a bit more about yourself. You have an impressive curriculum, and so I'll let you illustrate that. Okay, so you know myself from before, Julia from CISE coordinating Marie, and I'm here today with Jessica Huntingford from Resolvo, that's been supporting both CISE and the whole consortium during this 5+1 year. And then I see Karen Coughlin. Please, Karen, if you want to go ahead.
Hi, Solange. My name is Karen Coughlin. I work for the Southern Regional Assembly. So we represent the Southern region of Ireland. I suppose we're managing authority for the operational programme, but also of interest to us in terms of S3 is our regional spatial economic strategy. So it's kind of as a 12-year framework for the development or the kind of future growth of the region, and very much a bottom-up approach, very similar to S3 in terms that it would, I suppose, highlight and work on the assets and strengths of the region and kind of, work that as a baseline. We're very interested in, obviously in S3, in terms of trying to get a more regional approach to smart specialisation in the region. Certainly around the sustainability, one of our key objectives on the RESIS is to be the most creative, innovative, livable and greenest region. So it's very much, all those kind of, and our RESIS is also centred around the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's very much centred around that kind of sustainability element. So I think anything we learn today is going to be of huge value to us, both in terms of our strategy and in terms of trying to kind of build on our smart specialisation work as well.
Thank you, Karen. And then we have Giuliani from Attica. If you can also introduce Petros.
Yes, of course. Well, I work in the region of Attica in the Directorate of Development and Planning. We are the biggest region from the country of Greece. And I would like also to introduce Mr. Petros Podaras, representing the Innovation Center of Attica, and their mission, as they are the regional structure of research and innovation, is the development of the regional innovation ecosystem through the support of the Regional Research and Innovation Council and the continuous operation of the business discovery procedures, enhancing the interconnection between quadruple helix parties, supporting our actions in the context of RIS3, and in general developing the innovation infrastructure in the whole region. So thank you again for today, looking forward.
Thank you, Giuliani. And on my screen, I see Anna Maria with the youngest member of our Marie team. Please, Anna Maria, or Elena, you decide who's going to do the introduction.
Hello, thank you. Together with Elena, we are representing the Executive Agency for Higher Education, Research, Development and Innovation Funding. We are basically a national funding agency for R&D and higher education. And we are looking forward to learning something new today.
Thank you. Lisbeth, good morning. If you can introduce yourself and then pass the floor directly to Anna.
Good morning, everyone, and greetings from Tampere. I'm Lisbeth Frey. I work for the Council of Tampere region, which is a regional development organization. And today we also have a representative from the University of Tampere, Anna Martikainen, who is our regional partner.
Hello, I'm Anna, and yeah, I'm from the Tampere University. We are supporting the council in the Maria project and dealing broadly speaking with innovation policy. And yes, I also have my little assistant today, so we are both very happy about today and eager to hear more.
Thank you, Anna. Manuel, would you like to introduce yourself and your team?
Yeah, hello, good morning. I'm Manuel from Galicia Innovation Agency. And we are the organization responsible for different items in the region, always about innovation, but one of our main focus is on registry. So I'm here today together with a number of our stakeholders, like 6 or something like that, as I can see roughly, and all them are from research organizations or research teams, and also from technology transfer. Yeah, really happy to join and be here again.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have a small representation from OECD. Varinia, if you want to introduce yourself and your team.
Sure, thanks. Hello, my name is Verinia Michalun. I am at the OECD. I lead the work on governance and strategic planning in the Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions and Cities. And we are working with the Marie region partners on monitoring and evaluating this sort of S3 to RRI. And so we're very, very interested also to hear what Solange has to say about S4. Thanks. And I'm here with my colleagues, Luca Tacconi and also Stefan Wieser.
Thank you. So Solange, the floor is yours. We are all ears, but we will be posing questions. You know, previous experience says that we will. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Julia. And actually, it's very interesting that I'm going to share this work that we're doing at the Joint Research Center with practitioners in the field, because that is also our intention, that we will discuss with practitioners and we will bounce off ideas, and we can, always improve our work, but at the same time, we can also also we are improving our position also to always be of great assistance to practitioners and stakeholders in terms of innovation and the use of funds.
Solange, I'm sorry, I don't hear you very well. It's kind of disturbed. I don't know whether everybody has the same problem. It comes and goes.
Is it better like this?
Not really.
Let me check. Maybe like this is better.
It's more like a problem with the headset, it seems.
I can maybe try to use the like this. Maybe it's better.
Not really. I'm sorry. I'm afraid it's not.
Let me try. Maybe actually I use the.
Would you like to try to disconnect and reconnect? Maybe
maybe it will work
something
better.
happens.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Julia, sorry, I have to slip out at well, 10 o'clock my time, 11, but if the other one finishes quickly, I'm going to try and slip back in again if I can. So apologies, just ignore me.
Don't worry, don't worry.
Sorry about that, thanks. And Rose sends her apologies, some other crisis came up on a project, so unfortunately she's going to try and log in. We're sorry, it's a very bad morning here, so apologies.
Maybe I could use this few moments to let you know that Marinia just informed us yesterday or the day before that they will be ready to hold the workshop the last week of April. Therefore, okay, so lunch is back, so we'll talk about it later.
Yes, how does it sound like this?
Perfect.
Yeah. I use it like this. Maybe it was a problem with my headset. I don't know, because now I'm using the straight from the laptop, and it seems to be better. Great. So yeah, so it's I was saying that it's very interesting to bounce off ideas and also what we are working on inside the Joint Research Center at the moment, because the more information and the more necessities that practitioners are encountering also will be taken on board in our work, what we are doing. So it's very interesting that I'm here, and I would like to thank you also, Julia, for inviting me to this masterclass and share our ideas. So just as an introduction of myself, I joined the Joint Research Center actually quite recently, but time passes quickly, so I've been already some months there. But before, I was working in Brussels, and I was working on EU funds, on cohesion policy mostly, on behalf of the government of Malta, because I'm Maltese, I'm from Malta. And I was many times, my work was in the council, actually. But also before that, I did some time working in the Commission in DG Markt. Also, I was on investment funds, and my background is coming from. I'm not really from the civil service, but I'm coming from the private public bank in Malta, and I worked in the EU fund section, amongst other offices within the bank. So I'm coming also from the practical side of things. Let's put it that way. So great, I am going to share my screen so you can see my presentation. Let me. Yeah. Can you see my screen like this?
Yes, we can.
Yes, great, okay. So innovation strategies for sustainability, S4. I mean, at the moment we are, to be very frank, there are still like last discussions about the exact name, but we're just waiting for some confirmations inside the Commission, and it will be it. And I'm going to divide my presentation in, let's say, 3 parts. I will start by what we have at the moment, that is smart specialization, S3, and we'll be giving a very short overview of the situation so far with innovation and related economic development on the ground. We'll also be providing an outline of our ongoing work in the JRC on S4. And also at the end, I will be touching upon the pilot call for innovation strategies for sustainability. As you can see here, first of all, we have to look what we have in hand. Yeah, as I said, smart specialization, S3, and that this actually has rendered results, as I imagine you can prove. As indicated on this slide, we have already been working 10 years with smart specialization strategies, serving as a policy for knowledge-based regional development. And S3 emphasizes funding prioritization and participatory governance. As also you might be aware, the JRC has a long experience with smart specialization, beginning with the development of the S3 concept and methodology.
I'm sorry to be such an asshole today, but we're still on the first slide. So maybe if you can advance. I think that if you choose the, to visualize it, to show it as a slideshow. Okay, now it's the second one. Yes.
Yeah, maybe it was a slideshow then. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, it's as I was saying, yeah, we have the GRC has long experience with smart specialization and also the concept and the methodology and how to assist member states and regions in the implementation of S3. But now we have a mandate, the GRC has a mandate from backed by two commissioners, Ferreira and Gabriel, to develop the new generation of innovation strategies for sustainability, S4. And also this moves in line with the political priorities that are found in the European Green Deal. So let's start with a very short overview of the situation at the moment when it comes to innovation and advancement in regions and member states. And here on the slide, you can see the innovation concentration across the EU, where you can notice that strong innovators and innovation leaders are particularly found in northern countries and the ones in the center. And our work is to lead to more convergence in innovation in different regions across the EU. So it will be, innovation will be more spread even in moderate or slower type of regions in terms of innovation capacities. So next slide, here we can see also that the situation so far in the EU, there are EU regions with higher innovation potential tend to have more high-paid jobs and less low-paid type of employment. Also, regional disparities remain large, where peripheral regions tend to show much larger shares of low-paid jobs. It has also been noted that capital city regions are faring much better than other regions in the EU. And these capital city regions are showing the largest share of high-paid jobs across the EU. Also, I was reading certain studies, for example, the European Jobs Monitor indicate that member states are illustrating more similarities in terms of their employment structures. However, regions within the same country are becoming more diverging in their employment structures, like in what areas or sectors of investing, specializing, and also then it leads to what types of jobs are being offered in that region or member state. Here on this slide, we are seeing that over the 15 periods from 2002 to 2017, some capital city regions have shown signs of job polarization, with increasing concentration of employment in the highest and lowest wage occupations, as jobs in middle skill occupations gradually disappear. For example, looking at this slide, we see that Warsaw and Brussels increased steeply their share of high-paid jobs over this 15-year period, though it's not a clear-cut trend, because you can also, for example, see that Warsaw has an increasing share of high-paid jobs, but at the same time, it has an increasing share of low-paid jobs. So on the next slide, the future of work in Europe. We have to be aware of what is happening around us and also analyze what could happen. And millions of jobs are at risk, at high risk of automation in the EU. In fact, for example, by 2030, most European workers will face some degree of change in their work occupations. Also, 48 cities, as you can see on the slide, could capture more than 50% of Europe's potential job growth in the next decade. And more than 90 million workers may need to develop significant new skills. So seeing these trends and anticipating these trends for the coming years, we have to focus and attract more convergence across all cities and regions in the EU. This is very beneficial to avoid from leaving some regions behind. There is the need to strengthen the weak links than merely only moving forward with the champions. And at the same time, we have to consider that certain areas might be stronger than others in different fields. Maybe there will be some talent or more strength in one region than another. So maybe also that will be taken into consideration. So we focus more on that strength in that region and innovate in that aspect. And therefore, looking at the region's specificities, strengths, and weaknesses, and making the best use of a policy and financial mix is of most importance in order to move effectively, but also to move efficiently, but also effectively. Quality of government across EU regions. When looking at the place factor of doing business and the financing of operations, the consideration of the quality of the government comes into play. And the difference between one area to another of where to do business could be the state of impartiality of those who are in power and exercise government authority. So there has to be respect for example, private property rights, freedom from official corruption, and the ability to provide high quality services to citizens, to have a safe environment of where to do and attract business. Also, it was found, I was in another seminar and I was hearing that, for example, from the University of Gothenburg, it was found that there is a high relationship between impartiality of the public authorities and the level of businesses or enterprises in the area. So the quality of government has a lot of impact in terms of how businesses flourishes and how innovation go forward. Here we have an overview of the regulatory quality and innovation, and we can see the spread across different countries in the EU and also outside the EU. We can notice that from this graph here, we can notice that EU countries are spread all around. So there is not one trend of where EU countries are, but they are all across the spectrum. So let's go more direct now on what we are working on in the Joint Research Center. Innovation Strategies for Sustainability, S4. S4 are a new generation of innovation strategies for regions, cities, and member states that aim to create economic, social, and environmental value. These strategies try to create impact. They aim to lead to horizontal and vertical coordination in member states and regions. They put forward a broad understanding of innovation on consumption systems in terms of, for example, education, employment strategies. And also they lead to economic sustainability, social sustainability, environmental sustainability. Innovation strategies for sustainability have participatory governance involving a broad set of stakeholders to coordinate and anticipate change. They also put forward a new way of working across the government departments and levels focused on solving territorial challenges. And then at the heart of S4, there is the integration of contributions from implicated policy portfolios and funds under a single directional logic. S4, as much as it is an innovation and regional development policy, it is also an industrial and employment and social policy. So why do we need S4? We all know that we are living through exceptional times. There is, in particular, a climate emergency. Thus, we need to act quickly and seek to leave no one behind. And this is a momentous occasion to secure Europe's position in the economy of the future. Now is the time for a new approach to develop strategies. However, the good thing is that there is willingness to work across policy domains and develop the industrial policy, also including demand, consumption side actions. There are deep global transformations of basic human support systems, including food, housing, energy, transport, and of course, all the pervasive influence of digitalization. The European Green Deal isn't just a climate policy, it is a social and industrial policy anticipating future EU competitiveness through sustainability. And innovation scholars are now emphasizing on a new way to understand innovation and to influence it, focusing on system-level innovation and on the design of transformative innovation policies. And the Joint Research Center is uniquely positioned to integrate all these developments building on experience of working with regions, also with smart specialization in particular, and across policy domains in RRF countries. The objectives of S4. So when thinking about innovation strategies for sustainability, one has to consider that the clock is ticking. We need to achieve impact for the economy, society, and environment within defined timeframes. To do so, we should be drawing linkages across policy domains that are now unexploited. Building the links is costly, tensions will emerge, and we need ways to address them. We should also be retooling government, including with revised and fit-for-purpose policy instruments, such as new forms of public-private partnerships, public procurement for transformation, and regulatory experimentation and reform. And taken together, these require a step change in the effectiveness of coordination. These tend to accelerate and amplify impact. This is what S4 is trying to achieve. New challenges for S4. We should be thinking what we are trying to do. We are aiming at stimulating socio-economic transformation through innovation. We have good outcomes with S3, but at the same time, smart specialization has also unveiled certain limitations of our governance systems in EU member states and regions. And these limitations merit consideration to be addressed. There has to be directionality with mission-oriented approaches by objectives. There are still persistent silos in government structures and fragmentation of affairs, and these call for more joint-up work. Weak capacities in some regions lead to lack of focus on transformative innovation and the societal impact of innovation, and this calls for reform and support. There is also a need to use a whole-of-government approach, coordinated approach with several funds, deploying a fuller policy mix and planning efforts in particular by different ministries and government levels, as the challenges facing Europe in the green and digital transition demand investments greater than any one EU fund can be capable to do on its own. Considering new sources of innovation, for example, social innovation, procurement, regulatory sandboxes, vocational training, deep tech. So how to develop the S4 strategy on the ground, in practice? We have to keep in mind the importance to make a positive impact on the ground, on the lives of citizens through place-based experimentation and exploration, and through a dialogue with the community, which is very important, particularly involving a whole-of-government approach. We have to use the new framing of innovation, identify what's inside and outside the system, according to the goal, the vision that we want to reach. We need to work backwards, reform government. I will go into more details in these points in the coming slides, because this is the underlying aspects, the elements of the S4 strategy. So let's have a look also in comparison with what we are working under S3. How can we improve our processes, our ways of working? We see in point 1, multiple value creation. Collaborative working is key in the recovery process, also in generating resilient value chains. Such approach offers new innovation opportunities, which would not be achieved through regions working in isolation. In turn, this also provides stimulus to explore new commercial openings. Also, stakeholders have to be broad, but those that are relevant to the team, the operation, the activity, project at hand, we have to involve as much stakeholders as possible. So we have a healthy dialogue. We listen, we hear, we bounce off ideas between different areas, different interests of stakeholders. When considering other parts of government, looking at point 4 under S4, It is important that we move forward on a whole of government approach by involving different levels and areas of government. So it has to be from vertical point of view and from horizontal point of view, the involvement of the government. Also, to have stakeholders opening up their agendas, we have to aim at an impact that is greater than the sum of the individual impacts of the policy domains and instruments in an S4 strategy. This can be achieved by appropriately sequencing policy interventions in time, or by connecting interventions with others in ways that result in complementarities, such as, for example, innovation first and support for production capabilities later, or production capabilities first and subsidized demand later. Diffusion of a renewable energy system lowers energy costs and set basis for development of energy-intensive industries. Also committing to additional actions, such as changes in behavior, relating also to cultural change and different mindsets of how to work together, which approach to use. To seek to continue growing and leading to multiple actions, there have to be the opening up to new setups of financial sources for project, also by using particularly private-public partnerships. For a long time, our understanding of innovation has been centered on firms, as we all know that firms have a pivotal role in the generation of the economy. This framing of innovation, as you can see here on the slide, being referred to as the old framing, emphasized on those activities that are directly contributing to shifting the global knowledge frontier, and saw insufficient linkages between knowledge-producing organizations. On the other hand, the new framing, known as system-level innovation, which in addition to niche innovations by individuals and organizations, this framing requires changes in the structure or architecture of the system. And on the next slide, we are going to see a few indicative examples of system innovations. Though these are examples of well-known system-level innovations of global reach, however, place-based system-level innovations are pervasive. This new framing is motivated by a recognition that truly transformative social change is rarely just about the underlying science and technology. The system innovation framing invariably involves new socio-economic configurations meant to serve new socio-economic functions. In this new framing, firms and knowledge producers share the center stage with households and users. The role of government in this framing is also broader, as it serves as the provider of essential physical and social infrastructures that enable system-level innovations to happen. System-level innovations, however, can have no single designer, as they are invariably co-developed and represent the sum of countless contributions, even if some actors play a disproportionately influential role. Identify what is inside the system according to the goal. So examining a system under a broader framing from the very beginning will include a structure based on multiple policy domains and levels of governance, and it can eventually reveal previously hidden points of leverage. A broader framing reveals perspective, and it can actually allow a longer-term perspective. It can make it easier to imagine realistic projections towards ambitious goals that public policy would previously not dare to aim for. If the political will is present and/or planning cycles are mature, the introduction of a new strategy that incorporates all relevant action spaces under a single directional logic would be an ideal first step. This will be an excellent opportunity to broaden the framing of key policy issues and to reap the benefits of joint planning on related challenges such as environmental sustainability, economic competitiveness, social fairness, and cohesion. Directionalities, which will be describing a desired future, a goal, a target, would be the outcome of a broad participatory process of deliberation through the lens of local challenges and prevalent social values, which may vary considerably across territories and may even change over time. It is important to recognize that framing varies according to the goal. In fact, there is no single path to a successful transition, and one-size-fits-all approaches should be completely avoided. The pressing challenges Europe is facing and faces demand that we strive to do our absolute best. Stakeholder engagement and co-creation is at the heart of S4. It is where new opportunities are co-discovered and where the agreement for their exploration begins. Implicated types of stakeholders vary according to the goal. So next slide, working backwards from goals with coalitions of stakeholders in a multi-level perspective. First, there is the need to see what is the vision, the goal that we want to arrive at, and then seeking what to change in the system or processes. Innovation also includes the numerous technological and organizational adaptations necessary before new ideas are turned into actions that serve societal purposes, whether these are prosperity, sustainability, social justice. To set the scene for timely transformation, extending the scope of innovation policy and infusing other policies with innovative thinking are essential ingredients to develop European responses that deliver co-benefits for the economy, society, and the planet. Incorporating a whole-of-government approach is crucial. It's a comprehensive way to assemble resources and expertise from multiple agencies and groups within and outside the government to address problems with interrelated social, economic, and political causes, to create comparative advantage and maximize the use of resources. For example, a case study using the whole-of-government approach in the Netherlands, where the Ministry of Economic Affairs acted as a lead, but the actual actions, so the diffusion part, was coming from the other ministries. And these other ministries got an important role. In fact, it was a triggering debate of which ministry was helping which other ministry, as they were actually all helping each other through such an approach. Layering new policy alongside existing arrangements can generate conflicts among programs and agencies, which undermines policy support. Also, layering leads to accumulation of policies, which can eventually slow down or lead to contradicting approaches. And consequently, layering can be much less effective for institutional recalibration than dismantling those structures, and thus terminating the existing arrangement and start to work with the new structures. It is important to tailor priorities according to the needs of the region, city, or member state, as you might already be fully aware. There could be focus on new sectors or areas, but it could be a transformation of already strong sectors. There have to be space for the development of new path creation, where there is the need to move further from the status quo. So using demand strategically, there has to be the focus on both supply side and demand side policies. So you create incentives and the appetite from both sides, both the supply and demand. We say that the Stone Age did not finish because we ran out of stones, but it is important to move forward through sequence interventions. So support necessary for productive investments in local firms comes before subsidizing household purchases or investments for the green and digital transition. So they become an occasion for building territorial production capabilities. Use government budgets to create lead markets, make government a lead user of green or digital solutions, with a view to foster a strong pool of local demand that encourages local investments in productive capabilities. It is important to provide transition paths for everyone. Transformations or transitions that are more ambitious than just a technological green fix are needed. For example, new socio-technical systems should enable citizens to engage and contribute to the sustainable development goals beyond their buying choices. A socio-technical system transition involves social, behavioral, technological change in an interrelated way. The end result is change in all elements of the oil production and consumption configurations. And as illustrated on this slide, in the two loops model, there are two systems. Here we can see the dominant system with its growth and subsequent decline, and an emerging system formed by alternative niches arising in the landscape. Given the coexistence of the two systems in the two-loop model, policymaking will need to ensure a fair transition from the old system, but also support the emergence and viability of alternatives that can contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. This involves supporting the stabilization of new business models and value networks and new social practices. Also, it involves giving support and legitimacy to these alternatives so they grow and consolidate. And this is the key in the S4 strategy. In most cases, the adoption of alternatives will require adapting regulatory frameworks, for example, and institutional practices, and creating new markets. Important that support for transformational outcomes grows over time. Also important to be prepared to encounter resistance to change in late stages of the strategy when its actions pose more of a threat to incumbents. And also we're changing what we are used to have and to work with. So it is important to be prepared for this resistance. We have to be on alert also to fight misinformation that can crop up during the transformation process. So far, often market forces and public policies fail to channel properly the potential of innovation to obtain a sustainable transformation of society. The public is often a passive observer, giving space for the public interest to become the primary motivation for innovation. Important to base operational responsible research and innovation on the 5 dimensions underlying such a concept. So we have the public engagement, open access, gender equality, ethics, science education. A systemic approach to analyze innovation and the related consequences is needed due to uncertainty when experimenting and exploring with innovation. Technological innovative solutions to complex problems that could have worked in a restricted domain may lead to unintended or contradictory consequences when scaled up to the system level, such as loss of biodiversity. So we have to be prepared when moving to a bigger system. We have to be prepared that there will be more uncertainty and certain models will not work at different levels of projects or of operations. In our times, we are aware that this new mindset to tackle current challenges in an innovative and novel manner that leads to a sustainable future is the path of others as well, such as the OECD. I know that we have some participants today with us here, other DGs in the European Commission, governments in Europe and beyond, other researchers, think tanks. At the GRC, we are currently developing this S4 concept. We are building on and substantially extending upon S3. We are drafting the S4 playbook, which would be launched, tentatively this is being planned to be launched for May 2022 this year. A playbook is an unconventional document structured around visual fishes, showcasing key concepts, approaches, tools, and guiding principles. The S4 playbook is still in the making, and thus I can only give a flavor at this point in time about its structure, because thorough work is still being carried out at the moment. And in the coming weeks, in these weeks and in these months, past and the coming ones. The idea is that the S4 playbook will provide initial guidance. It will be a menu for choice of tools. It will facilitate exploration, experimentation, and learning. It is going to be pluralistic, and it will provide guidance without being prescriptive. It is about learning and unlearning, leading to thinking and practice on innovation. Soon in 2022, the JRC, together with the Committee of the Regions, will test a guide for S4 in a limited number of countries and regions. The intention is to test key novelties of the approach in a pilot with the Committee of the Regions in selected regions and countries, and the initiative is supported by the commissioners, Gabriel and Ferreira. The S4 playbook will be co-created and further refined, and it is aimed to co-develop the methodology with the regions, drawing on lessons from the pilot phase through the GRC, Committee of the Regions pilot, between 2022-2023, along the years of the pilot call. The aim is to develop new GRC tools to collect policy intelligence and support strategic planning, and a research agenda for and around the S4 concept. So referring again to the S4 playbook, the idea is to have online versions which will allow improvement over time and insertion of new features. So the timeline for the GRCCO collaboration on S4 will be that in May 2022, there will be the launch event to present S4 playbook and announce the beginning of the pilot call. In April, June 2023, volunteer regions, and between April and June 2023, volunteer regions and countries pilot key features of S4 in their policy making. And in September 2023 of next year, a refined S4 methodology will be ready to be scaled up across the EU. We have also set up a world-class scientific committee to ensure that S4 is based on top scientific advice, unique combination of experts on economic development, sustainability, and innovation. And the scientific committee supports both the development of the concept of S4 and its testing in the S4 pilot, together also with the S4 playbook. And we are in close contact with the scientific committee, and we have a number of meetings with them, discussing also this input and also making good criticism to each other. So we will come up with a very good menu for choice tools in the S4 playbook particularly. So thank you. This was from my side, and now I will be happy also to discuss any questions or any input or comments that you have. Also, I will take everything with me to improve also in our work, because it will be very useful for us in this time, especially that we are drafting the S4 playbook. Thanks.
Thank you, Solange. I think the reason why we wanted to meet you is because we were looking for insight on two elements. One was, to learn how to shape our S3, or since some have already been shaped, how to adjust them as we manage them, so that they not they look more, but they are more like S4. They are better in terms of achieving the transformative change that everyone is trying to pursue, put in place. And the other need that we had was to learn how to measure this process, how to define indicators to understand the transformative potential of the S3. Because the thing is that indicators and systems of indicators, they describe things, and describing things is also shaping things. This is more, maybe this is a bit philosophical, but when you choose indicators, you basically choose what to look at, and by choosing what to look at, you exclude everything else, and therefore you're defining your domain by choosing indicators. So I was curious whether this playbook will also include some methodological guidance and some tools in order to be able to choose indicators, because you said that one of the principles is working backwards from goals, right? But in order to be able to work backwards from goals, you of course can enable yourself with the input of stakeholders, and discussing things also helps understand how things are. But at the same time, I think you also need to have some methodological base, some knowledge, some insight on correlation between things, because if you want to work backward from something in order to put in place what is needed for that to happen, you need to know correlation. You need to know, maybe from experience from other regions, that if you put all these elements in place, and if these forces enter into the picture, then you will end up achieving your goal. So I was wondering whether there's going to be within the guidelines some guidance that help defining systems of indicators through reasoning on correlations from experience from, I don't know, leading regions, or best in class, or even from not so good practices. Thank you.
So yes, thanks, Julia, for these comments and bouncing off ideas. Yeah, actually, I mean, from the mostly from S3 to S4, because we know that S3 also did achieve good results, and we are already where we are at this point in time, yeah, in terms of smart specialization, innovation strategies. But the emphasis from S3 to S4 will be more flexible, more variable in our way of working. So in fact, this how can I say, this term of whole of government approach, it's one of the most influential, I think, in the S4 framework, because we saw that in smart specialization, despite the improvements and the positive outcomes that there is, but there are still persistent silos across government, and this is impeding more development that we can actually achieve. So it's removing the silos, and also, apart from the whole of government approach, also adding that we will have a bigger dialogue with stakeholders. There will be more stakeholders involved, and so we will go to this quadruple helix model, yeah. The more stakeholders that are involved, especially the ones that have interest in the field and that can move things forward, the more that we can move forward. And this is a big emphasis in terms of the S4 concept. Also, in terms of indicators, so in the S4 playbook, it is, as I said, it's based on fishes, and it has a different, or a concept, or a tool, or a methodology in every fish. And that's why I said also it's a menu for choice. And in fact, there is also an indication, yeah, that because we have to monitor, as you said, we have to monitor the progress in some way or another. So, and indicators are one of the best ways how to monitor that we are moving somewhere, or we are doing an impact with what we have with the S4 strategy. And it will, actually, the S4 playbook will provide a methodological guidance of how to monitor and how to evaluate improvement, and what we're doing with the S4 strategy, where we are going to be. So though we are still developing, as I said, the S4 playbook, but yes, the idea is that there will be a system of indicators that we are trying to see from experiences so far, but also these will be continue to be developed with the regions, also because the pilot goal will also give us more food for thought of what indicators could work even better, and that's why we are developing this S4 and moving from or working with both S3 and S4. Yeah. So I would say, yeah, the answer would be yes.
Thank you. I tend to obsess over, asking practical questions like, is there going to be guidance on how to set indicators and stuff? Because I come from the world of enterprises. So whenever you talk to them about change in approach and cultural shift and stuff, before they say bye-bye, they go, okay, you convince me, tell me how to do it. So they enterprises, they need tools, they need systems, they need very clear methodology. So I tend to have the same mental approach when I'm talking politics. So this is why I was asking whether there's going to be very practical guidance on how to choose indicators. And although I understand that it's a very dynamic framework, because as we were commenting during the previous workshop, the unthinkable keeps happening, and so you cannot rely too much on your knowledge on causality but not even on your knowledge about correlation. You need to be able to operate some level of reflexivity. So I understand it needs to be dynamic, it needs to be ready to change, but at the same time, I think that people on the field, they need something practical to start from. So this is why I think it's going to be very, very important that besides the reasoning on the change in terms of approach, it's going to be very beneficial if you are also able to put some very practical elements that everybody will think, will develop their own thinking about it, but people need not to start from scratch, not to spend money and time reinventing the wheel, or at least something that somebody else has been put in place before and worked. So my advice would be to really include that kind of previous knowledge and experience.
Yes. In fact, the idea is that we will build from what we have so far. It's not because practitioners, people in the field, yes, you are already very much accustomed to S3 and how it works, and maybe what did not work as well. Yeah, but so we will try to take the good parts of S3, of smart specialization, and continue building on them. And that's the idea, because to start, from scratch, it's apart from excessive work, which will be like waste of time, but at the same time, it's not worth it to have something already working and starting from scratch. So the idea of S4 is not to have a new it's a new concept, but at the same time, its basis is S3 and building on it.
Other questions? We said that we would be with you for 1 hour, and we're reaching 11:30. But if there are questions and you can say 5 more minutes, I would be very happy.
Yes, sure.
Whoever wants to talk, just open your mic and go ahead. Or maybe it was just too much. Maybe people are praying that these guidelines never see the light, or at least that they wait for the autumn, because they're still working on their S3, and any novelty will be just.
Julia, may I ask a couple of questions? I found this really fascinating and super interesting. Particularly the whole discussion and the approach with respect to governance and sort of the governance dimension of this. But I do have a slightly different question, especially in this transformative process. There are always sort of winners and losers in these kinds of processes. And in your slide that had the transformation process, I was wondering if there's thought given to how to not let losers fall farther behind, how to bring them into this transformation process. So that, is it a question of, you know, all of a sudden you have new or almost new actors, and those who aren't able to adapt fall farther behind, which then leads to a whole host of other problems? Or is there thought and mechanisms or consideration to how do you take the system and fully transform it, including those that are already in it? And it may not be an either or thing, but I'm quite curious about that. And on a very practical level, I'm sort of curious about how this fits into the 21-27 programming period, because it seems like it could be very powerful. But if a lot of regions and countries already have their S3 strategies, and I know a lot of them have been working quite hard on redoing their S3 strategies, this comes in later. And then what are some of the expectations for it? Is it something that then needs to be really incorporated after 2027, and this is laying the groundwork for it? Or is it something that you know, the European Commission would like to see kind of get going now after the pilot? Let's see. And then I have other questions, but we'll leave it at that.
Yes, thanks. Thanks also for bouncing these thoughts, which are actually, we are also inside the JRC also thinking all around these aspects also in our S4 playbook. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, the idea, not the idea, but the aspect is this, that though we try to really push for everywhere to move forward, also to have more convergence, but at the same time, there will still be like champions and losers and winners. Yeah, but the thing is that with the S4, we're trying to, as much as possible, try to do a win-win situation for all players. And we emphasize a lot on dialogue between a broad group of stakeholders. Especially, the emphasis is also to have identification of strengths in certain regions, which are maybe less innovative, less digital. So we will not put the emphasis only on, you know, like cities, and then we see that cities, they have the majority of jobs and the best jobs, and we continue with this trend that peripheral regions will be left behind, or maybe they will have less opportunity, so people move away from them. So the idea is to really infiltrate also other regions, which in these past years were like, you know, like not the best brains for innovation. And the dialogue is very important. It's crucial actually in the S4 strategy. Dialogue with everyone, involving as much stakeholders as possible, and also be variable in the thoughts, be more flexible, than using always the same people or the same stakeholders. Also very important in the S4, there is an emphasis to involve more the civil society, because the communities can feel more maybe than policymakers many times, because they are the ones living in different areas of the countries, in different areas of the regions. So the idea is to have a more a bigger approach under S4. In terms of how does it fit with the programming period? I mean, S4 makes a lot of emphasis about innovation, digital, green, also within the political priorities of the coming years for the European Green Deal. So it moves along, and it tries to see also the aspects of different funds and what they offer. And so even the tools and the methodological processes that we have, they are much in line with how we are moving forward. So we're taking from smart specialization S3, and also within the framework of the coming this programming period from 2021 to 2027. At the moment, S4 is how can I say, how it's an approach we're seeing it. It is an approach, a concept of how to make things better than what we are doing or what we did with S3. So for the coming years, or at least till now, the idea, even after 2027, because you also mentioned this, we're not saying that this will be replacing what we have, or it will be something that we will, it will be, how can I say, with the restrictive rules and so on. It's not, the idea is not to have it like that. The idea is that we have S3 and we will have S4, so we will better what we are doing now. In the sense, at the moment it's a menu for choice, and it's not that member states or regions have to abide by it. In the sense, it's optional, but at the same time, this is going to be experiences, a mix of experiences, built on a mix of experiences of what we are doing now and how to improve. So the idea is that it will be very attractive, that in the coming years after the pilot, there will be even more regions using it. And that's we are trying to really to push and to build it with the regions. So it will be more attractive and a model for other regions, how they can improve the systems that they are using now with S3 to go to S4. But it's a flexible type of concept at this point in time.
Thank you. It's pretty much what we're doing in Marie. We're looking at the thinking around S4 as an inspirational model to assess and manage our S3. So you might want to keep an eye on us and see what we will do in the next months. Petros, you raise your hand.
Yes, Julia, thank you. Well, I just wanted to share a few comments following the question of Varinia that I heard before. Actually, I believe that there is a risk, indeed, that not all the regions are likely to benefit equally from this transition. And I remember 1.5 years ago, there was this conference, this webinar series organized by JRC again, the Smarter 2020. And I'm not sure if Solange is aware of this, but and they were addressing exactly these challenges of the fourth S element in S3, and how we can address it, what is the meaning of the 4S, etc. So in this context, about this question that you raised, Varinia, the answer was that the main element, the main tool that we are having for making sure that all regions are likely to benefit equally from this transition is to enhance the interregional collaboration. This is one thing that we should put emphasis on, just to make sure that everybody is getting the results of this transition, and also some other thoughts about building stronger partnerships and also building the capacity of the teams that will drive this transition in a local or regional level. And also I would like, by the way, to raise another issue, which is it's very important that there is in place a sustainability strategy based on which the S3 will become S4 at regional or national level, and also it's very important to ensure the complementarity and the directionality at multi-level policy design. And this is an issue that we raised in the previous workshop we had at the beginning of this week, to make sure that distinct strategies, one at the national and one at the regional level, ensure complementarity of each other. And we don't have, and also we have in place mechanisms for addressing tensions and trade-offs that possibly arise. So just to close this this comment, one thing that I would like to see from JRC is, well, you know that there is a gap. Not everybody's at the same level. in terms of implementation of S3. And we're trying at the moment to learn from what happened in the previous S3 implementation. Now we are talking about S3 version 2.0. Now we hear about S4. Next year, probably we hear about S5. This is all okay, but we are the people who are going to implement it. So we need clear guidance. We need practical examples. We need encouragement, and also, not that long-term and academic approach in this topic, because what we are asked to do is to deliver, and we deliver now. So, well, I just wanted to conclude my comment here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Petros.
Thanks also from my side here, which I took. It's interesting intervention. I took a lot of points also to bounce off with my colleagues while we're drafting the playbook. And actually, what I just want to add is that the playbook, the fishes, some of them are also based on examples of regions like the ones in Navarra and Catalonia, for example. So we are really seeing also the practical side of things, and we are also putting how these are working, and like food for thought also for other regions. So we're already moving on this track, because yes, I understand. Yeah, also me coming partly from the practical side, I understand that academics is important, and to have theories and so on. But it is important to have something practical, so you can really can use it and deliver on the ground now. So thanks a lot for your comments.
I think I just, from Varinia, Solange, and Petros' comments, I just had kind of an epiphany. You're probably going to say that I was just a bit dumb not to have that before, but this element of no one left behind is probably really the key element in S4. Vis-a-vis S3, because when we were talking, when the thinking around S3 was born, it was all about specializing, therefore choosing. And when you choose, you take something in and you leave something out. And then, of course, we were aware that if you were not investing in a sector anymore, there would be trouble and issues and stuff. And so the idea was to cater to the need of those left behind. But it was not to bring them back in somehow. It was really, remediation rather than inclusion. And I think that this element of no one left behind is the really novel element here, and it's more challenging than environmental sustainability. I mean, environmental sustainability is challenging because there's so many interests behind, the different energy choices that you can make and stuff. But this element that by specialization, you don't mean anymore, just leaving something out, but is bringing it back in, and how effective you are in doing this. This is probably the biggest challenge, and it's probably what we should concentrate on, because that's something that you cannot measure through the indicators that are already available, the mandatory elements that are already there in the S3 and stuff. So it's probably something that it's worth starting from, although it's the most challenging probably. So you probably were all aware of that already, but it really struck me from your comments. So thank you. Okay, so we are 15 minutes late almost. So if there's something that someone has a pressing question, maybe he or she can go ahead. Otherwise, we will just say bye-bye. So your last chance to raise your hand, basically. Okay, everybody seems to be happy with what we changed, with what we exchanged so far. So Thank you so much, Solange, for being here with us today. Thanks to all Marie partners, their stakeholders, and to the OECD team for having been with us today. We'll be in touch. Hopefully, Solange, you can send us your presentation and I can share it with everyone. Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
So again, thank you so much, and you all have a nice day. We'll be in touch. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.